Greetings, class. This will likely be the last segment for t-tests for one sample. I'm just creating this film to let you know that I have placed on Blackboard in the relevant folder 4 examples of t-tests for one sample. I would call them cradle to grave examples because I begin with the information that you'll be given when you are asked to do t-tests for one sample, and then I follow the 5 steps, or I'm sorry, actually, scratch that. I follow the steps that are necessary in order to complete a test of a hypothesis using a t-test for one sample. You will also find those steps on loaded up on the Blackboard as well. That handout looks like this. Steps to conduct a t-test for one sample, 1 through 6. So those steps are followed for the 4 examples, cradle to grave examples that I provide you. Again, complete examples. One last thing that I wanted to mention, and it relates to those examples that I just mentioned. Hopefully, if you've been vigilant about watching the YouTube clips, you are aware that in order to solve problems using a t-test for one sample, you're going to be drawing the t-probability distribution. For example, and this will probably come as no surprise, a shape like this. Now, sometimes, depending on the wording of the hypothesis, this probability distribution will have 2 tails. Those tails together are referred to as the critical region, the rejection region, also the alpha region. Okay? It might be easiest to think of those pieces, these tails, as being the rejection region, and the reason is that when your data generated t-value falls in those regions, you would reject the null hypothesis of equality or the null hypothesis of no difference. When your data generated t-value falls in this part of the abscissa or this part of the abscissa, you would reject the null hypothesis. When your data generated t-value falls in this portion, you would accept or retain the null hypothesis. So it's really important for you to have a handle on what the null hypothesis is. Now, sometimes, again, depending on the wording of the hypothesis, sometimes you will have a t-probability distribution that looks like this. In those instances, if your data generated t-value falls in the rejection, critical, alpha region, rejection region, critical region, alpha region, if your data generated t-value falls in that portion, you would reject the null hypothesis of equality. You would discard it. You would reject the null hypothesis of equality or the null hypothesis of no. On the other hand, if your data generated t-value falls in this portion, you would accept or retain the null hypothesis of equality or no difference, or no, you would retain it, you would keep it and say those two things are the same. Sometimes, again, depending on the wording of the hypotheses, sometimes you will have a one-tailed test that looks like this, that has the critical region, the alpha region, the rejection region on the left. In those instances, if your data-generated t-value falls in this portion on the left-hand side, in the critical region, the alpha region, the rejection region, you would reject the null hypothesis of equality or the null hypothesis of no difference. On the other hand, if your data-generated t-value falls anywhere in here, anywhere in there, along the abscissa, you would accept or retain, keep the null hypothesis of equality or no difference. So keep that in mind when you work through or walk through the examples. This is the first of 4 cradle-to-grave examples that I've posted on Blackboard for you to work through. Those 4 examples should, in addition to everything else that's been uploaded and created for you, those 4 examples should give you enough information to hopefully close the loop, as it were, and allow you to go forward and conduct your own inferential testing using t-tests for one sample.